Okay, this is the long-awaited video on the DCC decoder install for the Athearn Bombardier cab car. This video will be divided into 3 different parts to make it easier for you to refer, because I know that some people only want to know how to do a specific task and they don't need to watch the entire thing. Part 1 of the video is the project overview. We're going to go over the tools and materials that we need. We're also going to go over how to disassemble the model and how to make the track pickups and install the track pickups and wires into the cab car. This is a fairly difficult DCC install, I would say, and the methods used here can be applied to almost any other piece of rolling stock or locomotive when it comes to DCC installs. I have made this video as detailed as I possibly can make it so that you can actually follow along as the viewer. And if you do decide to follow these instructions, just to let you know that this video is heavily edited, so it might take longer than what you see here on the video. Expect to run into some difficulties because, it is tricky. This is not easy to do. So yeah, let's get started. Alright, first I'm going to go over the materials that you need. First thing, obviously, you need a Athearn cab car. This is my cab car, Gold Transit number 200. It is one of the first run cab cars that came out in 2002-2003. You also need a DCC decoder. I am using the ESU LokSound Select that was cannibalized from one of my U25Cs. You can use any other decoder of your choice. If you're using a 21-pin decoder, I also recommend getting the 21-pin adapter plate from ESU, item number 51967. You need a speaker for sound decoders. This is an iPhone speaker. You can buy one for about $1 each on eBay. I normally just buy them in batches of 10. And then the next thing you need is the 0402 LEDs. These are one of the smallest LEDs that you can buy, and these things are pre-wired, so you don't have to worry about soldering those tiny strands of wires onto the LEDs. You will need 6 lights in total. 2 for the headlights, 2 for the red markers, and 2 ditch lights. Again, I'll post the links to buy these things in the video description. You also need resistors for the LEDs. These are 1/4 watt, 820 ohms. But you can also use, sorry, not 1/4 watt, 1/2 watt. But you can also use 1/4 watt resistors, which are slightly smaller than these and might be easier for you. The resistance, I would recommend 820 or 1000 ohms. I think 1000 ohms is probably even better because the LEDs are really bright when I use the 820s. You need 1 resistor for each LED, so 6 resistors in total. We also need some wires. This is just a representation. Obviously, this amount of wire is not enough. It's probably helpful if you get color-coded strands of wires for your DCC installation so you can tell which connection is which. So for a typical DCC installation, you would need red, black, orange, gray, and yellow and white, blue, and green, and purple, and brown. But since I don't have all those colors, I normally just use black and red. Black for negative, red for positive. But that's only because I know what I'm doing. If you are easily confused by the amount of wires that you will encounter, I strongly suggest you get color-coded wires, or else you might get confused and stuff. And these are just quick connect plugs. I actually don't know the proper name for these things, but these are very useful because the lights on the Athearn cab car is going to be attached to the shell, while the decoder and the electronics are going to be on the chassis. So that whenever you have to take the shell and the chassis apart for servicing, you can just use these quick plugs to disconnect the lights so that you don't yank the wires out of the shell by accident. Next we have the 0.2 millimeter brass sheets. I use these to make the track pickups on the trucks. You don't need a lot of these. There are other substitutes that you can use. For example, a aluminum soda can would work just as well. Or you can use phosphorus bronze wire, like the ones that you can find in hobby shops. The next thing we need is shrink tubing to make sure that the connections don't hit each other and cause shorts and stuff. And we also need 2 types of tape. The first one is Kapton tape. It's mainly used for electrical work. And then also we have double-sided tape, which is used to secure the circuit board and whatever else that you need to secure onto the interior of the car. The tools that you need as follows: hobby knives, pretty much a given. You use it to cut stuff. The pliers, I use it to pull the chassis underframe of the car out of the shell. And this plastic spatula is used to pry the shell open. It can also be used to remove 21-pin decoders, screwdrivers, Phillips screwdriver, flat beam screwdriver. And this is a wire cutter. You can also use scissors or the hobby knife, up to you. Tweezers. This is for holding on to the tiny LEDs and the wires that when you install them. I actually recommend getting what they call reverse action tweezers. Basically, on a reverse action tweezer, when you pinch the tweezers, the 2 heads are released, and then when you release the tweezer, it actually snaps it shut, holds the wires in, which is actually better if you're doing the LED installs. What else? Solder and soldering iron. Yeah, not much to say about the soldering iron. Just a pretty typical, I think it was a 30-watt iron, but there's a knob on the soldering iron that you can adjust the amount of power. And the adhesives that I will use is Aleen's original Tacky glue for gluing the LEDs, and also the Gorilla Glue, which is a cyanoacrylate adhesive. This is used to glue the track pickups. And yeah. Oh, you also need a rotary tool or a power tool with drill attachment. Is used for drilling holes in the underframe of the car to run the wires from the wheels and trucks into the car itself, or else you won't be able to power your decoder. Okay, now first thing we have to do is take apart the cab car. So it's pretty straightforward. The cab car has 8 screws attached to the underframe. There are 2 on the trucks, and 2 for the coupler box cover, and 2 for the couplers themselves. You want to take off the screws in the following order. You want to remove the 2 trucks first, and then remove the coupler cover, followed by the coupler itself, and do this for both ends. After you do that, you should be able to take the pliers and then pull on the bolster on each end, and then the underframe of the car should come out of the shell. But you can only do this if you have a car that's from an older run. So any car that was made like in the 2000s. If you have a car that's been made recently, like for example last month, or from 2013 or 2010, you may find that the shell and the underframe is glued together at the doors. This is very obvious If you just look under the doors and where the step is, sometimes you will find glue marks on there. If you do find glue marks, you need to take a sharp X-axle hobby knife blade. If you do find glue marks, you need to take a sharp X-axle blade or hobby knife and score between the black underframe and the shell where the door is to release the underframe from the shell. I know it's really stupid. If anyone from Athearn is actually watching this video, which they're not because, Athearn doesn't listen to the customers. Here's my suggestion to Athearn. Stop gluing your shells to the underframe of your cars. Because, there's actually people who want to open these things up. And if you glue them shut, it's just going to make it hard for all of us. You might risk breaking something trying to get rid of the stupid glue. Once you have the underframe and the shell separated, next thing to do is to drill 2 holes into the underframe so that you can run the wires. I drilled the holes right behind the bolster towards the center of the car because it's probably the most convenient place in my opinion. So you will need a power tool or rotary tool with a drill bit for this. The drill size doesn't really matter. Just make sure the hole is big enough to run 2 of the wires in. I think I'm using 30 gauge wire, so the hole is fairly big. I think the hole that I made is 2.5 millimeters, which is more than enough. It doesn't really matter, just make sure the hole's big enough. Yep, and just do be aware that the underframe of the car is zinc alloy, so it will heat up when you try to drill it. If you need to take some time to let it cool down, please do that. Next thing we have to do is to make the track pickups. So take your brass sheet and then cut out a strip approximately 1.5 millimeters wide, and you can make it as long as you want, but we need to make 4 pieces that are 30 millimeters long each. So we're gonna need 2 for each truck, and we have 2 trucks, so 4 pickups in total. You want to use a piece of tape to hold down the brass sheets. So when you do the soldering, you probably want to solder the wires slightly off center on the track pickups, because if you put it in the middle, the wires might become stuck on the trucks. And you need 4 pieces of wires, 2 black and 2 red. One of the black wires should be about 25 centimeters long, and the other one should be about 15 centimeters. And that's the same thing with the red wires, one that's 25 centimeters long and one that's 15 centimeters long. So one long and one short. The short wire will be used for the truck that is closer to the cab, and then the long wires will be used for the truck that's further away from the cab. So yeah, you want to tin the wires, obviously. I'm not going to show that on camera. The wires that I use here is, I think it's either 28 gauge or 30 gauge, but you can use even smaller. You can use a 32 or 36 gauge wire. It doesn't matter. As long as the wire is not too big, should be fine. Yeah, I'm not going to explain on how to solder, those are the basic stuff. You should be able to do this, yeah. If you need to practice soldering, go on YouTube, look up tutorials on how to solder. I'm not the best at soldering, so just don't mind me. Okay, so now we have these 4 track pickups and the 4 wires. The next thing we're going to do is to bend the wires. The first one you want to take is the track pickup with the long red wire, and you want to bend this long red wire downwards. The next one is the short black wire. You want to bend this one downwards as well. The third wire is the short red wire. You want to bend this one up. And lastly, it's the long black wire, and you want to bend this up as well. It's kind of hard to explain the reasoning behind this, but basically the orientation of the long and short wires must be flipped, because you will have a pickup that's on each side of the truck. So like they're actually mirrored. One of the wires go one way and one of the wires go the other way. But you will see how it fits together when we actually install the pickups together. Next thing I'm doing here is to actually glue the truck pickups onto the inside of the trucks from the bottom. Here you use a cyanoacrylate. I'm using Gorilla Glue, which is a cyanoacrylate or super glue. Just put a little bit of the glue onto the truck pickup and then attach it to the inside of the truck. I'm not going to show this on camera because it's too difficult. It requires a lot of precision, and if I show it to the camera, then I can't really see what I'm doing. So I'll just have photos of the finished truck pickups that's been glued onto the trucks. So yeah, you want to do that for all 4 truck pickups, 2 on each truck. And you want to make sure that each truck gets one black wire and 1 red wire. So one truck should have the black short wire and the red short wire, and the other one should have the black long wire and the red long wire. It doesn't matter which orientation you put it in, because doesn't matter. No, I don't think it matters, because the trucks are actually symmetrical on 2 sides. So it's not possible to put it on backwards. If it appears to be backwards, you can just rotate it 180 degrees and it'll be back in normal. We need to bend the truck pickups into a S shape so that they actually touch the back of the wheels, or else the pickups won't work. So you want to make a 45-degree bend towards the outside of the truck, followed by another 45-degree bend in the other direction. I have included a very crudely drawn diagram to help you see what you needed to do. Now it's time to install the trucks. The first thing that you need to know is that the cab car does have 2 different ends. There is the cab car end, which has a shorter distance between the door and the edge of the car, and that there's the other end, which has a longer distance between the door and the other end of the car. So once you located the cab car end, you can install the truck with the shorter wires onto it. Insert the wires into the hole that you drilled first, and then secure the truck with the screw. And you also do this with the other end. You take the truck with the long wires, and then you put them into the hole that you drilled on the other side of the cab car, and then secure the trucks with the screw. Now, if you have followed my instructions correctly with the wire bending and whatnot, you will notice that the red wires are on the right side of the car. On the video, the red wires are on the left side. That's only because the car is upside down. Once you turn the car right side up, the red wires will be on the right side when you are sitting in the engineer's seat and looking forward from the cab car, and the black wires will be on the left. The easiest way to remember this is that right is red and not right is not red. Just remember the R's. This is in line with NMRA and NEM DCC standards. The right track pickup is assigned the red color, and the left side track pickup is assigned the black color. We need to route the wires that are coming from the rear truck of the car towards the front of the car so that the 4 wires end up together or close together. What I did here is I took the long wires from the rear truck and then I routed them on the top floor of the car, and then I covered them with some electrical tape so you don't see it, and it goes down the staircase where it meets up with the shorter wires from the front truck of the car. I also twisted the wires slightly together so that it does not come apart, stays together. Okay, so I think now is a good time to wrap up this video. Obviously we will continue with part 2 of the Athearn cab car DCC installation next time. We will talk about installing the decoder and installing the lights, and then testing the decoder and the lights in the next video.